Hello and welcome everyone to a new meditation, a new practice in our Responding to Coronavirus with Calm and Connection series. I'm Zeynep and I'm really happy to be here. Tonight we have an exploration that I think is really important for us right now in the middle of this pandemic and confinement. We will be exploring how to make positive mental states a little bit more sticky, which is important because a lot of us are sitting with anxiety or stress or boredom right now. And that said, we're still having, even if tiny, moments of positivity or joy or gratitude. So what can we do to make these positive mental states a little bit more sticky and deeper? That's what we are going to be exploring today. So this practice comes from Dr. Rick Hanson, who is an American psychologist. And he talks about the negativity bias we all have in our brains, which means that when something negative happens to us, we are more likely to remember it compared to positive experiences. To be specific, when something happens to us, like a dog biting us, we will be scanning for it, so really looking out for it and kind of trying to protect ourselves from it. 2, over-focusing on the negative experience. 3, overreact to it. 4, overlearn from it. So, analyze it a little too much, try a little too much to learn something valuable from it. And 5, become sensitized to it. So next time it happens, we might be very emotionally reactive to it. Now compare this to when we have positive experiences. Actually, when we have positive experiences, we are very quick to glance over them. When someone says something nice to us, or when we stand in front of a really nice sunset, we might enjoy it for a few moments and then just completely forget about it and go on to the next thing. So Dr. Rick Hanson describes this in a beautiful way. He says, we are Velcro for negative experiences and we are Teflon for positive experiences. So something negative is going to be very, very sticky and something positive is not going to be so sticky. Therefore, we need to consciously tilt ourselves toward 1, having more positive experiences, and 2, making those positive experiences a little bit more sticky. And I'm going to share with you in a second what we can do to make them more sticky. He basically shares 7 tricks, 7 prompts. Before that, I want to mention the fact that our brains are very plastic, neuroplastic, which means that neurons that fire together wire together. So when we experience something for the first time, we have a neural representation of that. There is a neural activity in the brain, some neural pathway lighting up. And for that to really turn into a stable trait or a very stable neural structure in the brain, we need to experience it over and over and over again. So when this over and over happens, that initial firing in the brain turns into a wire in the brain, turns into a structure. So when we stand in front of a sunset, we might experience it for a few moments and then forget about it. But the fact that we did that once is actually making us more likely to do it a second time. And the fact that we do it a second time makes it more likely to do a third time. And over time, if we keep at it, if you remember to really enjoy that sunset every time we find ourselves in front of a sunset, that will turn us into a person who's very likely to do it. Or over time, it will turn us into someone who really finds beauty and joy in the small moments of our lives. So we shouldn't despair, because we can override these tendencies in the brain. Science proves it, and we can actually make ourselves lean toward and have a tendency for more positive mental states through repetition and through an intentional effort of keeping at it. So Rick Hanson calls this practice taking in the good, and he says this is an effect and absorption practice. In order for us to absorb something, we first have to experience it. We need to have an effect. The effect can be many different things. In mindfulness, for example, we talk about 4 essential heart qualities, which are loving kindness, this sense of friendliness and warmth, compassion, which is kindness and care toward our or someone else's suffering. There is equanimity, which is calm and composure in the middle of chaos. There's joy, which is rejoicing in the small happy moments of life. There are others, such as forgiveness, gratitude, generosity. Some of these practices you can find easily in this playlist, responding to coronavirus with calm and connection. And we can even think of other positive effects we want to have, such as grit or determination or resilience or commitment. It can be something as simple as being really committed to exercising every day. So as you listen to me now, you might reflect a little bit on one thing, one positive mental state that you want to have more of in your life, one positive mental state that you really want to cultivate. So once we experience this positive mental state, let's say someone says something nice to us and we have a moment of gratitude for these words that we heard, or for that person's warmth and kindness toward us. The first thing we can do is to sustain the experience. So increase the duration. This means that we don't just feel good, feel that little bit of gratitude and go on to the next thing. We stay with it. We might take 3 breaths. We might find a sense of intimacy with it and a sense of absorbing it, really absorbing it, and encouraging yourself to stay longer with it. Because the longer you stay with that experience, the longer the neurons will be firing, and they will be more likely then to be wiring, to be turning into a permanent structure. The second trick we can do is intensity. So same logic, the more intensely the neurons are firing, there will be more of a chance to turn it into a permanent wiring. So this intensity can come from really opening yourself up to the emotions and to the sensations of that positive thing, letting them become bigger, letting them kind of take over. Number 3 is enriching the experience. And for that, the first and foremost thing we can do is to come to the body. In order for us to really enrich that experience of gratitude or generosity or kindness, whatever this thing is, we can notice the sensations in the body, where they are. Are they changing? Are they stable? If they could have a color or texture, what would it be? And really keep this curious observation of what's happening in the body, and even support it with a somatic aspect of, just a compassionate touch. Or if you're having this nice warm feeling in your belly, maybe putting a hand on your belly to increase the richness of that experience. And the other thing we can do here is to offer ourselves some phrases, such as, may my happiness multiply, or may I be experiencing this more. Number 4 is novelty. So this is just a sense of freshness, of surprise, of delight. And I think this also makes intuitive sense. Our brains are always scanning for what's new, so we are more likely to learn from new experiences. In Zen, there's a concept called beginner's mind. I was practicing this earlier today with a student, where we were practicing mindful eating. We were eating a piece of hazelnut, and we just looked at that piece of hazelnut, which we have both seen for many times before, as if we have never seen it before. So just really investigating it. And so we can have the same sense of novelty and freshness towards an emotion that we have felt many times before, such as gratitude. Number 5 is personal relevance. Why is this positive mental state really important to you? For example, why do you really care about becoming a more grateful person or a more generous person? Because it's the same logic. Our brains learn from what really matters to us. Number 6 is intending and receiving. So setting intentions for this positive mental state to really become permanent, to really deepen and to really sink in, and then surrendering to it. You can imagine this as water sinking into a sponge, or this gentle and loving rain that falls on the earth and really nourishes every part of the earth, maybe especially the dry parts. And Dr. Hanson says one way of teaching this to especially children is describing that this positive state or emotion you want to have is put inside a treasure chest in your heart. And so whatever image or sense most helps you, but exploring how you can have this sense of setting intentions for this to sink in and then to really surrendering to it. And number 7, I think is the most interesting part, is tracking what's enjoyable. What I find fascinating is most of these positive mental states are actually enjoyable, because in an evolutionary sense, our ancestors, when they had that moment of generosity or gratitude or kindness or what have you, when they had these positive mental states and positive emotions, they evolved into lighting up the reward centers and the pleasure centers in our brains. Therefore, biologically, when we experience some of these things that we want to cultivate more of, we actually have some pleasure from them. There is some reward, intrinsic reward. So you can track how when you give away something, when you have a moment of generosity, that feels really good. And by just tracking what feels really good, you can stay with these experiences longer, and you can have a deeper learning and deeper cultivation of them. So to summarize, and all of these 7 points are backed by the science of learning. So this is all related to how we learn things. It's increasing the duration, 1, intensity, 2, enriching the experience with the body, 3, novelty and freshness, 4, personal relevance and meaning, 5, intending and surrendering, 6, and tracking the joy or the enjoyment, what is enjoyable, 7. So you don't have to remember or do all of them. You can just, next time you want to cultivate something nice in yourself, a positive mental state, you can remember maybe a few of them and try to increase the duration of the experience or the intensity, or track what's enjoyable. Now we will do a short meditation, about 5 to 7 minutes, where we will put these 7 prompts or 7 tricks into practice. So I invite you to find a posture in which you feel awake and relaxed. And then you can close your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever feels good in this moment. And you might want to check your posture one more time, whether you are sitting or standing, to make sure that you're feeling both wakeful and ready, as well as relaxed. And to relax the body a little bit, you can take a few deep breaths. And each time you exhale, you can relax the shoulders, relax the face. Let go in the belly. Let go of your hands. And if your anchor is breath, you can stay here, just observing the in-breath and the out-breath. Maybe whispering to yourself, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And if your anchor is not the breath, it's the sounds or your hands or your body awareness, you can bring your kind attention to your anchor for a few moments here. Each time the attention drifts away, without judgment or criticism, simply bringing it back to your anchor of choice. And in this way, just collecting your scattered attention. And now, as we begin this practice, you might bring to mind a feeling of care, of love, loving kindness. So you might think of a being in particular. It could be an animal, a plant, a person, a human. It could be another spiritual figure. Just choosing a relationship where there are much less complications, love flows easily. Just a place or a being in your life where you feel this delightful love, this really deep caring. And then you might, in this exploration of really making this love and care a bit more sticky and staying with this positive mental state a bit longer, you might sense what this feels like in your body. You might strengthen it with a hand on your heart. You might notice where in your body you feel this love and care, what the sensations are. Are they changing? Do they have a color or texture? And you might add some words like, may you be happy, or maybe just a brief reflection on how nice and good this love and care feels. And now for the duration, increasing the duration, you might, for the next few moments, just keep your focus on this experience in your body. Just staying with it, staying with the sensations, emotions, and thoughts of this love and care. And each time the mind wanders away, as it always does, simply bringing your attention back to this loving kindness and taking it as your anchor. And for the intensity, you might also just let this love and care be as big and vast as it is, letting it pervade your mind, heart, and body. You might sense how this love and care is increasing more and more as you sit with it. And then for the novelty or the freshness, you might just explore what part of this emotion or this experience feels new to you, feels fresh. This sense of delight, a sense of surprise, maybe calling on to this beginner's mind to see this love and care in new eyes with a fresh perspective. Noticing something about it that you hadn't noticed before. And then a sense of remembering why it's personally meaningful and important to you to be loving and to be caring. What matters to you about this mental state, this experience? As well as really setting the intentions for this love and care to be one of your permanent traits, to really sink into you. Setting intentions for that, and then a sense of surrendering to it, sense of letting that become true. And then finally, in the last moments of this meditation, you might sense what is, if anything, enjoyable about this practice or this experience, what feels most rewarding or pleasurable. What is rewarding and enjoyable about love and care? And then just bringing your attention back to your anchor and staying there for a few moments until you hear a bell. So that concludes our practice for today. I hope this was of benefit to you. If it was, please feel free to give a thumbs up to this video on YouTube and share it with other people who might benefit from this practice of making our little positive experiences a bit more sticky these days, and remembering that there's not just the stress and the anxiety and the boredom and the fatigue. There's also these little moments of joy, gratitude, compassion, love, and care we can both cultivate and really stay with and make deeper and make longer, and really set ourselves up so that we learn these positive mental states and turn them into traits in ourselves so that they become increasingly more accessible to us in times of need. If you have any questions about anything we covered today, feel free to leave them down below the video and I will get back to you. May you be well, take good care of yourselves, and see you next Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Paris time for another live stream, another meditation and practice. Be well.